Welcome to my channel where I share my journey of creating a more peaceful, balanced, and calm life. And in today's video, I would love to talk to you about my journey of learning to worry and stress less about things. I have always had a lot of anxiety and just a tendency of overthinking and worrying about things in life too much, small, big. And over time, I have learned to overcome this and achieve a lot more freedom in life as a result. And there's a couple of things that played the biggest difference. So I feel very much called to share this in my hopes that somebody might watch this and um, adapt some of these practices and ideas, and they might help you too. Okay, so the first aspect that has made a huge difference to how I view and experience life and life circumstances has been this big realization that thoughts are just thoughts. Now, I have heard this so many times before. I consumed so many self-help books and podcasts and YouTube videos, and I often heard this notion, but I never could freaking understand what the hell does that actually mean until I started practicing meditation consistently. So even though my insight here is about really learning and realizing that because thoughts are just thoughts, they're not facts, that we can choose different thoughts. I should say that meditation has played a huge impact and difference within that, because by practicing meditation, what happened was that I learned to become aware of what my thoughts actually are. And I've also learned to realize that not all of those thoughts are true. And when those two things have happened, what I realized was, if thoughts are just thoughts, and I do believe that thoughts are, I read somewhere that 90% of our thoughts are the same on a daily basis. So I figured, okay, so my current thoughts mostly are just pre-programmed, wired thoughts that I'm kind of used to thinking this way since childhood. So I can start choosing different thoughts. So instead of thinking, gosh, I said this at a meeting and now everybody thinks I'm stupid, I'm gonna think, oh, nobody has noticed this. Or I'm gonna think that actually I am a really great contributor and I perform well at meetings. And the reality is, unless I receive direct feedback that I have stuffed up at that meeting, I don't actually know what people thought. And yes, of course, objectively speaking, there might be times when I make mistakes and, all of those things when things don't objectively go well. But I also know that people who have a tendency of worrying too much, we tend to worry about things that will never happen, or they were not as bad as what we're thinking. So in this case, I just always tell myself, well, why don't I choose to think a nicer thought? Because the reality is, what I'm thinking determines my quality of life to such huge extent. My surroundings can be whatever, but if in my mind I keep thinking negative things, I keep thinking anxious and worrying thoughts, I am poisoning my own existence. And once that became really clear to me, I kind of thought, well, why would I be toxic to myself? Let me try, and as best as I can, to reprogram and rewire my default thoughts. Why don't, as soon as I notice that I'm thinking thoughts that are negative, that are worrisome, that are anxious, in situations where that is not warranted, where I don't actually have facts to back it up, start thinking a different thought. It will feel maybe slightly weird initially, but for me, it actually ended up being a relatively organic process. The moment I hear myself, kind of notice myself, catch myself being stuck in those negative loops, I'll be like, all right, let's think about this differently. Sometimes I would just distract myself with something else altogether. But realizing that thoughts do not have to have this kind of power over me was incredible. And Again, I do want to say that I did not fully embody and comprehend what that meant until I actually had the practice that allowed me to become more aware of what we're thinking. At least from my own experience, I do genuinely believe that a lot of us live in such constant distraction these days that we're not super aware in terms of what goes on in our head. And if you are someone who tends to worry about things and stress out about a lot of things, I do feel that it would be a very beneficial exercise to start noticing this and becoming more aware. And once you do, remembering that you have the choice, you can choose different thoughts. And that is incredible. It is so liberating. I can't even begin to describe how freeing that was to realize that so much of what I was stressing out about was not real. It was not, and I can make my life better without having to change anything externally, just by being able to look at things in my life from a different perspective. The second aspect that has played a huge difference was starting to realize that I always have a choice. I may not always like the choice that I have, but I always have a choice of at least how to react and respond to a situation. Yes, there are some instances where you're completely helpless. You can't actually influence what is going on in the environment. However, you can always choose how you react to it and how you think about it. That again is an aspect that gives you a lot of agency to start realizing that there's a lot that is within your control, even in situations where a lot of what's going on you can't do anything about. The other aspect of it is learning to take responsibility, to act like an adult, where I can look at a situation objectively and ask myself questions. Okay, can I do something about this thing that's causing me to stress out and to worry? If the answer is yes, then go and do it. If for whatever reason I do not want to do this, then it doesn't make sense for me to poison myself and be toxic to myself, so I need to let it go. For example, if I have, a huge deadline at work, too much work, and I'm stressing about it, I have a choice. I either work the weekend to make sure that I can finish everything on time and get this done and not worry about it. If I don't want to work the weekend though, there's no point of me also worrying about how this is going to turn out. I need to then be an adult and realize that, okay, well, I've made the choice to not do anything about this situation, and that's completely fine. And if that's the case, then it will be what it will be. And if it will be what it will be, is no point of me worrying about this now. Now, I know this is actually so much harder to do in real life than what it sounds like. And as I often say in my videos, I share and record this content for me first and foremost. And that's definitely something I'm still working on. But I've become so much better being able to discern which situations I can take action on. And if I am taking action on, I also know very well that being stressed out about it at the same time is not helpful. And second of all, if there is no action I can take, or I'm making an intentional choice not to take action, I give myself permission to let it go then. I guess it comes from being that responsible adult, right? Where we learn to take responsibilities and we're okay to face the consequences. And when you give yourself time and space to think through this situation that's causing you grief and decide what you're going to do about it, it becomes more liberating. It does not hold as tight of a grip over you. But again, at least for me in the past, a lot of the times I would just get stuck in this indecisive sort of circle where I would waste a lot of my energy and thoughts and time on worrying about things and sort of just jumping from one thought to another, and being a lot more structured with it and bring that approach of, okay, I'm either doing something or I'm not, here are the consequences, and then I'm gonna let this go and focus on something else. That has been absolutely huge. And of course, finally, I feel like no video of mine about minimizing stress could not have information about using our breath. Our breathing is an incredible tool, and by simply slowing down how you breathe in situations that are stressful, you are going to activate your rest and digest, also known as parasympathetic nervous system, which will send signals to your brain that, hey, this is not the time to worry. You don't need to stress out, relax. So having some techniques up your sleeve that help you to down-regulate yourself is going to be super helpful. There are heaps of videos on this. I have some on these techniques as well, but to cover this off super simply, you can just basically start by taking long, deep inhales through the nose and long, deep exhales through your mouth. You can do this on a count of 4 for your inhale, 6 for the exhale, and by doing this such simple technique for a few minutes, it is going to make a difference. A lot of the times, if you're feeling really triggered with stress, at least that's something that works for me, I would first take a few minutes to breathe, calm myself down, and then I can objectively look at the situation, decide what I want to do, is there anything I can do, and then kind of work through letting it go, maybe choosing a different thought pattern and all of those things. The trick is, in order for you to have all these tools available for you, you need to be aware and conscious. So noticing that, taking a few moments to breathe, and then thinking through it and being kind to yourself. And always remember, your experience of this life exists while you exist. So why not make this existence as pleasant and comfortable for yourself as possible, at least by not poisoning your own environment and thinking by having thoughts that are not productive and constructive. Again, I don't want you to walk away feeling guilty for those thoughts. I've been there. I'm sometimes there as well. But I do want you to remember that you can take control of these to a degree. You can become more aware. You can help yourself. And I think that's an important takeaway from this video. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.